blessed unity with the L-O-V-E. Love is the solution, so set your love free with the L-O-V-E. Further evolution and blessed unity.
Good morning, self-lovers. Welcome back to the Self-Love Show. I am your co-host, Dawn Light, with my beautiful sister here, Trish Wright, with me. Yay! Today is a really wonderful day. We have an amazing guest to introduce. But before we do that, I just really want to remind all our guests, thank you for tuning in to us. We're so grateful. And in case you don't know, we're on all the platforms. Go check us out on YouTube. Go check us out on Apple, Spotify, all the places. And please like, share, and subscribe because this helps the algorithm and spreads the message of self-love to everyone that needs this, right? Who doesn't need to expand their relationship with himself, their relationships, and all the blessed ways we desire to have greater connection in our life. And so today is an amazing guest. I'm so excited to introduce her. So we have the topic today is Unstoppable You with Victoria Pelletier. So Victoria will share her personal and professional journey of overcoming extreme adversity, including childhood abuse and trauma, to live a life with no excuses philosophy. Becoming a successful corporate executive by age 24, an author and brand and networking champion, she will share personal and professional development lessons and practical actions for growth and advancement. Her key insights: highly motivational, inspirational, actionable insight and lessons for personal and experiential professional growth. Victoria is a 20-year corporate executive, board director, #1 selling author, and professional public speaker. Nicknamed the Turnaround Queen and the CEO Whisperer by former colleagues and employers, Victoria inspires and empowers her team and clients to change mindsets, drive growth in business, leadership, and culture. As someone who does not subscribe to the status quo, she is always ready for new challenges, becoming one of the youngest chief operating officers at the age of 24, president by 35, and CEO at 41. Victoria was recognized as one of the 100 global outstanding LGBTQ executive role models by Involve, sponsored by YouTube, and a 2023 Women of Influence by South Florida Business Journal, a semifinalist in the 23 50-50 Women on Boards Women to Watch, and 2022 Top 30 Most Influential Business Leaders in Tech by CIO Look, and 2022 Most Influential Entrepreneur of the Year by World Magazine, 2021's Top 50 Business Leader in Technology by Insight Magazine, and Mentor of the Year by Women in Communications in Technology in 2020. HSBC Bank awarded her the Diversity and Inclusion in Innovation Award in 2019. Yes, and she was IBM's #1 global social seller, ranked by LinkedIn in 2019 and 2020. Oh my gosh, Victoria Pelletier, welcome. What a beautiful bio and so much accomplishment. Good work in the world.
Thank you. Thank you. I should have told you in advance. You could cut that down dramatically. Pick and choose what you want from there.
It's okay. It's great.
It's okay to boost you up. And I think that, in a world where we are really taught that productivity is a lot of what we do, I think that showing our hard work is good. It's good to just, fluff up our friends.
Well, thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
Oh, happy to have you. One of the things that I think about as I was listening to your bio, and I'm thinking about the people who are listening, and even the people that we've had on, is having learning business is its own spiritual experience. It's really I often think about my business as an actual relationship, and how thinking about how I feel about it, and how I think about the world in general, and how I think about money and all of the things involved in that. And I also, because my brain doesn't exactly work maybe the way that other people's works, is I'm always how did you come to this?
Well, so that in itself as a story. The interesting thing is I had visions from probably the time I was 10 or 11 years old that I was going to be a lawyer. I think that's because my mom forced me to watch the TV series LA Law with her back in like the, 80. You guys are younger than me, I'm pretty sure. So like in like the 80s and 90s. But I watched that and I was like, I was determined I was going to be a lawyer. But I worked all throughout college and I was working in a bank and I got promoted through the ranks incredibly quickly. And I realized I loved the leadership role that I got to play. And I also love the complexity that I found in business. And so what I thought was going to be 1 year off between undergrad and law school, and I had been relocated with the bank across the country. So I was thinking maybe I'd move back. Neither of those two things ever happened. So I never went to law school, and nor did I ever move back out west because I followed my passion. And I found that in the corporate world. I'm still very entrepreneurial. I've built and bought businesses, and I have many of the side hustles that you talked about from authoring and speaking and those kinds of things. But at my heart, like I'm a business person, and I love like the environment that that creates, and doing things that bring me joy and solving problems. People.
I think we might be having a little technical difficulty.
Okay.
Hang in there for a second. She'll be right back. There
I'm
she
here. Oh, I'm like, I never left the screen.
I love that you're like, you knew as a child how well, like where you were going. I think that not all of us have that clarity. Okay, so I'm really curious about how many of us and our listeners and our viewers also have their own businesses, whether it's coaching or whether it's, brick and mortar, or all the many things that you can do online and offline. What do you find is the thing that stops people the most?
Fear.
About
Fear. Many things. Fear about of rejection. So I think many people, and I think in business, so step aside more on the corporate side than entrepreneurial for a second, but and particularly women are afraid to ask, afraid to go for the promotion, afraid to ask for the introduction. And a lot of that is from fear of rejection. And I think there's significant insecurity in our own abilities. And I think, and this very much applies to entrepreneurs as well, failure. We're afraid of failing. And, for me, like, so what? You pick yourself back up. Progress is one foot in front of the other and moving forward. So I think that's what holds so many people back.
Absolutely. Even I've been in practice off and on for about 10 years, and my practice has evolved. And I know that Dawn's practice has evolved, and I'm sure that that's the cool thing about, owning your own business is it really is truly intimate. It'll touch every part of your psyche and your life, and how you feel about yourself and how you feel about other people and what you feel about selling and your goal and your purpose on the planet. One of the things that really helped me some years ago is I watched it was a really short TED Talk about a guy who was like teaching us how to talk about what we do at high school reunions. He's like, don't tell them that you're like, I'm Bob, I work at the bakery. Tell them like what your purpose is, and start from the back end. Start from like who you help, why it matters to you. And then you can walk into this experience of like, oh yeah, and this is how it works out. So it really helped me understand actually how to align myself with what I really truly wanted. And what, because I was like, oh, I'm hearing all these things. I'm taking all these coaching practices and things like that. And I think this is what I'm supposed to do. And I was like, actually, that's not my mission. My mission is actually to be with people in their fullness and to invite them into full expression. And I can move from that way. instead of being like, oh, I'm a certified sex and relationship coach and I need to do it this way. Like, I don't need to do it that way. I need to sit with people in their codependency and hold them there. And so in saying all of this, it's just this idea of the fear stopping us. I think one of the fears I hear in my own practice just around, I don't know what to do next. Like, I don't have a game plan. I don't see that far. And even in like relationships, right? I'm thinking about relationships. And even when Dawn and I were talking right before you got on, it was like, oh, I don't actually have like the best game plan here, because I'm coming at it from a coaching thought process. And there's just things they didn't teach me about business. I have a hand for coaching and like maybe a finger, a pinky for business.
Yeah. I have a phrase, Trish, that I use in many instances, from like personal branding to taking, charge of our career, our business and life. And it's strategic intentionality. And I don't think you have to have it all planned out. I mean, I thought I was going down one path, being a lawyer, living in one city, and all of that changed. So I was open. So strategic intentionality, but being open to opportunities and things that may come our way. And in that strategic intentionality, though, it is being grounded first and foremost on what is your goal and objective. So, I mean, that's where I want to get to. And then the strategy over what's going to bring me, to that next step, and then creating intention and holding ourselves accountable to taking progress on that path. So that's been for me sort of my approach in terms of life, business, relationships, all the things.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. It's really important. It's true to keep realigning yourself, because as many times in business, we have to pivot. We have to pivot again, and we have to pivot again. And it's like, and we're also following this, like, when you're really operating from a soul-led business, you're literally spirit's leading your business forward. And so there can be these huge shifts sometimes that you're not anticipating. And like, you grow. And I think when you start with a certain niche, and then you grow and you evolve your niche and change your business, and that's been my experience I'm speaking from my own experience here around my own business. And it's evolved and it's growing, and it's a practice, and I'm like loving it and listening to it and honoring it. And it has really busy times and really more nurtured, inward times too, like a human life, right? It's got a life of its own. And so I love what you're bringing forward is really so important. It's like, just stay with what is my next step and keep realigning yourself there. And that's so important.
Yeah. And I think really getting comfortable with the fact, and use the word pivot. I like that. I use it often too. I mean, we evolve and change. And I think of what I wanted in my 20s and how I defined success, very different as I got into my 30s. And now that I'm creeping into my late 40s, again, the view of that is very, very different. And so I give myself like the space and the agency to like recognize that I've evolved and I want different things. And so I think many people don't give themselves permission for that, because they had a path they were going to go down, and are like, well, I need to continue here. Well, no, you don't. Who says you need to do that?
Right.
So, yeah.
That's beautiful. Like, I mean, I feel like I had a whole life previous, before I even started to do this. I like feel like on a soul level, I accomplished so much. And then I kind of had a redirect, complete start over, go to graduate school. And then I shifted gears. I was already a therapist before I went to graduate school, but then I shifted into coaching because it made so much more sense to me. And like the skill level I acquired was really about completing patterns in consciousness versus just talking about it. And so that's what really directed me in that direction. And yeah, it's just been such a powerful learning curve on every level, learning business, learning, there's so many things you have to learn to be an online entrepreneur. And it's not for the faint of heart.
Definitely not. And I think if I were to give advice to, particularly the entrepreneurs, listening and watching here, is you don't actually have to do it all. I know
You
that's
don't.
hard when you're starting out and you think you don't have the money to pay people to do that. First of all, there's a whole bartering system. There's fractional work that can be done. Like, stop thinking, lean into your superpower and find other people who are going to help you with the things you're not great at. So, if you're not a good bookkeeper or finance person, find someone to do that. Find someone to do your social media for you, like all those things. So again, lean into, I think, what I call it your superpower, but also what brings you joy and value, and find others, surround yourself with others who can complement with the things that you either don't enjoy or don't have the skill to do.
Or don't have the bandwidth or time.
Exactly.
I love that you said that, because this is one of my biggest pet peeves throughout like the whole coaching and online business. Is like people just be like, I've done it all on my own. And I'm like, girl, I know you have a team. Like, I know. I know your team. Like, and I often am thinking about like this idea that we present this out in the world that we have to do it on our own. And it really takes, a village to raise a business.
Absolutely.
I wanted to go back a little bit and kind of dive in, because it's one of the things that I'm so fascinated about. So I'm in a kind of a pretty nice school where I spend time all day, like 6 hours of my day, with 20-something-year-olds. And their goals and their mission are very, their purpose is just different than mine. I'm stacking like 20 years on them, right? And so I'm always thinking about how our purpose and we oh, you said how we redefine success. And I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about how you define success in your 20s, and then in your 30s, and now in your 40s, like, because Dawn and I have talked about this a lot, and we've done shows on this piece, but I think that this part right here is some of the juiciest and most loving advice that we can give any person, especially, people in femme bodies, and especially if they're in a, some aspect of a minority identity.
Yeah, so for me to tell you in part how and why I define success the way I did in my 20s, I just need to tell you a little bit around sort of the origin story of me. So
Sure.
I'm born to a drug addicted teenage mother who like beat me severely. So in my bio, you talk about trauma and adversity in my childhood. Comes from that. I'm fortunate to have been adopted, out of that environment when I was 4, and into a non-abusive home, but lower socioeconomic position. So I started working at age 11 to make. I never had to go without food or clothing, but there were no vacation. I didn't get to go on the school trips, like that kind of thing. And so for me, I was determined to be better than the biology that I was born into, nor the circumstance that I was raised in. And so for me, my definition of success was a lot had to do with material possessions. And so I was going to accumulate wealth. And then as I entered the business world, I also equated, the wealth came from more senior and senior roles, but it also came with the hierarchy and the responsibility that I gained. So I achieved to some extent in that I became, my first exec role was at age 24, earning, 6 figures at that point. And so that's how I define success. When, I got into my 30s and I got divorced from my ex-wife, who then passed away from cancer just a couple of years after we divorced. And then I became a single parent and had to nurture my children who had to deal with the loss of a parent. I started to incorporate things like health and wellness. I've always been a fitness fanatic, I've been concerned, but that started to become much more of an element, and the self-care piece, seeing all that she'd experienced. She had cancer the first time when I was pregnant with our youngest. So that sort of entered the equation. And also we found out her cancer had come back just 2 or 3 months after we separated. I left her everything. I was 12 or 13 years younger than she was. I was the primary earner, and it is just money. So my relationship with material possessions evolved significantly.
Mhm.
And then as I got later into my 30s, into my 40s, and I started to think about what I wanted next in career in particular, and it's connected a lot to what I talk about from a personal brand perspective. I started to think about legacy and impact.
Mhm.
And when I die, how would I want to be known? Being a successful business person and doing all of these mergers and acquisitions and things like that, that's not what I want people talking about when I die. I want it to be beyond the fact that I will have raised two really good human beings. I want it to be around the fact that I created better workplaces, communities, and the world at large through the work I do as what I refer to as a whole human leader, and also the work I do around social justice and social equity and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So that's the evolution of definition of success for me.
Amazing. I really, really hear your journey, and it's very powerful what you're sharing. I acknowledge you because there's so much healing that took place for you through it, and I think it's natural as I'm close to your age too. I'm 49, so I think we might be in the same pocket here.
Ooh.
And I'm
You look
married.
amazing. You look amazing.
So do
Wouldn't have
you. So do you. We don't look our age at all. And, I have a 13-year-old and married for 20 years. And so I really can share the same sentiment through gaining success in an industry that was like soul sucking for me and like really uncomfortable. And I kind of climbed as far as it could go in that industry, and I was successful and I mastered it. But at the same time, I was miserable and unhappy, and it kept me from my family. And I worked crazy hours, and it was debilitating to my body and everything. So there was just so many places that I did not win or really succeed in that way. And I made it through, I put myself through school later in life because I too am a child abuse survivor and had a very dysregulated home life, and left home at 17 and never looked back. But I never got that footing to like, I would have gone to college young, but would I have chosen the path it's all divinely perfect the way it unfolded, but I ended up going to college later in life while through raising a child. So that was really challenging. And then my success definition has evolved and changed so much in letting go of the material need. And I've learned to be incredibly resourceful, and everything in my consciousness and my mind around money and success, all of it has evolved. And now I'm in the same place. Like I have this deep ache in my heart. Like I too want to leave a legacy. I want to make change in a good way. I want to be known for like, wow, that woman like left an imprint in this way, and that would feel so good on my soul to know that I came and I made the best that I could make out of this precious sacred life, and impacted as many souls as I could in a positive way. And like that, you've won life when you do that. Like I don't want to be that person that lays on my deathbed with regret. I want to lay on my deathbed knowing I showed up and did my best, and like I took the opportunities, and yes, they were hard, and yes, there was challenges, but I said yes. And I want to feel that in my soul when that day comes.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love this conversation because see, like that's the juicy bit. In your 20s, you're trying to fit in, you're trying to belong, and you're trying to do the thing. And we get wrapped up in either running from the thing that we had before, or running towards this thing that we think we're told to want.
Yeah.
You're told to do this thing, and you're supposed to do this thing. And I did that too. And I think I mean, I'm seeing kids every day. Like where they're like, why are you not stressed about this exam? And I'm like, is it going to matter tomorrow? Maybe it'll matter next week. And maybe in a couple months, it'll matter, like my grade and stuff. But honestly, it doesn't matter next year or 5 years. And the only time that your grades are going to matter once you get out of school is that first job you get. So honestly, darling, relax. It has nothing to do with your worth. And because I'm like pushing 40, right? And things have shifted like wildly for me over the last, just because it's like the things that matter are more connected to community and connection and heart. And I love that you were so generous with your ex-wife. And I love that you repivoted your life towards your family, because I think that that's the truth. Like that's where the purpose is. And and you both use legacy, and that's kind of my branding. I work with men. I have a Man of Dignity program. And I work with men who are in their 30s, 40s, going through their midlife crisis. And like, I did all the things. Why do I still hate my life? I'm like, well, let's learn to leave a legacy of love in the world. And I teach them how to feel. I teach them how to empathize, and I teach them how to drop into their body and actually become human and humane. So I'm like, just to get to this point of like, oh, it's not about the money. It's not about stacking accreditations or these things. It's really about how you show up with yourself, and it's about how you show up with other people. And if you're actually leaving a wake of love in the world, or if you're like leaving cruelty. Ooh, this is such a juicy. Again, like this show. We've often joked that it's couples therapy for Dawn and I. Like friendship, couples therapy. Our relationship has gotten so much better. We like get coaching every week from people, and we also offer coaching. And the community, I think, like the woven community around like really promoting other people's voices has been something that's been really incredibly important to us. And Victoria, sharing your story and how you weave in the world, there's no doubt that you just bring so much love to a very corporate world. So thank you for doing your work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we've talked about fear, we've talked about purpose, we've talked about legacy, we've talked about family, and we've shed some tears. So now we're friends. So what I'm kind of thinking about is, okay, so sometimes when I'm thinking about being unstoppable, I often hear like you have to just keep going. And I think that sometimes we don't know when to pause or when to keep pushing. And like is it resistance, or is it like a time to take a step back and look? Or, like how can we talk a little bit about like maybe how or how you coach your folks, how to know when to pivot or when to slow down or when to just keep moving through it?
Yeah, Unstoppable is a very significant part of my brand. I mean, it's the LLC, it's the first book that I co-authored. Like it's a meaningful word for me. And it's in that there is nothing that will prevent me from achieving my goal or objective. However, how I had to go through that path. And I think I didn't have the most healthy way of being resilient. And resiliency is a big part of what allows me to be unstoppable. And so for me in the, early days, that was about putting walls up. I'm going to protect myself, given the abuse and trauma I've had and rejection and sexual abuse in my teens and all these things. I'm going to protect myself. And so the first thing I'll talk to people is developing a healthy way of being resilient. I mean, the anchor always remains the goal or objective that you have, whether it's career objective, whether it's a fitness objective, it's relationship objectives, whatever. Be really clear on what that is. And then a lot of it has to do with self-awareness and self-reflection. And so this is where I will challenge as I'm coaching or mentoring people is to be really aware of why do you have the thoughts? Why do you act out in the way you do? What is preventing you from achieving goals and objectives? And finding a tribe of people that are going to help you with that, because sometimes we have blinders. So find some people who be radically candid with you on some of those things. And then it's about modeling the thoughts, the action, the behavior to move us forward. And one of the things we talked about, fear, giving yourself permission to fail. However, on that, as long as you pick yourself up, pull your socks up, and again, one foot in front of the, of the other. So that developing resilience in terms of the journey towards being unstoppable, that self-awareness piece. And for me also, when it's time to pivot, I talk about is it again connected to this goal or objective you have for yourself? And now that as people are getting older, talking about legacy, is it also bridging towards that? And if it doesn't bring you personal or professional joy or value, then it's time to reevaluate and figure out if you need to shift or pivot or change or do something differently.
That's such good advice. But you know what I mean? I mean, it's like, you know, having people in your life who are going to be like, hey, you should look at that, I think is one of the most powerful like ways of doing business, you know? Sometimes when I'm talking about like the projects, like here, I'll share, I'm pausing my practice right now. And I've sat with it for a long time because I'm a full-time student and I cannot do both. Like my brain, I can't separate the two things. Like it just there's not enough time in the world in my brain and all of the things to actually like fully give each project its true and honest and authentic like push for it. Like so everything's not having like it's not clean. It's not in my integrity to have it just so sloppy. And so I've been sitting with that and I'm like, at first I was like, no, I can do both. I can schedule it. You should see my schedule. I'm like, whoa, I probably need to sleep. and actually thinking about what am I modeling? And, my roommate is like, hey, you're running a lot. And I'm like, I'm tired, and someone to just kind of push at that. And like, hey, where are you pushing this towards? Do you have a plan if you're pushing it towards something? But it looks like a lot of energy without a plan, without a strong direction. So what would you like to do with that? And I was like, oh yeah, good point. And like been sitting really with the thought of that, and also like allowing myself to grieve my own aging, I guess, in the sense of like, wow, in my 20s, I could probably hold that and that and that. And now I'm like, whew, I need to work out and rest. And those things are more priority than getting it all done. And so I think like really sharing, productive ways of like, hey, you need people. And you also, if it doesn't bring you joy anymore, to take a step back and look if it's not enlivening you. And to pivot from there. So yes, it's so good. How many times have you pivoted?
Many times. So for any of your, listeners and viewers who might check out my LinkedIn profile, they don't always think it's like this, like, straight line at all. I've gone all over the place. Like I said, from thinking I was going to be a lawyer to no, I'm going to go down a corporate path to at one point it was in this particular field and I took a sidestep to this other one and so on and so forth. And so I can't even tell you how many times, Trish, I've pivoted. I go and I do what feels right at that moment. And for me also it's meant a balance. I hate people who ask me one about work-life balance because I'm like, it's all just life. So for me, it's just finding a way to integrate. And how they also ask, how do you have it all? Well, first of all, you perceive that I have it all. I do think it's possible to have success in many areas, sometimes not all at the same time, or just not, or just recognizing that you need to make compromise and trade-off at times for the right things. And so I've done that both to put forward family at sometimes, and other times it's been for, career, other times it's been for health. So for me, all of that's required shifts and pivoting and getting comfortable in my own discomfort at times.
Yeah, I find that it's uncomfortable. Being in business can be radically uncomfortable at times, and you find your sweet spot and you find your groove for a period of time, and then new things come in and you got to change and you got to pivot, and it's just like being willing to be uncomfortable while you're growing and expanding is the key ingredient. Like, not jumping the gun and running and like I'm going through a radical growth phase right now where I had a lot of people leave my coaching sphere, and I did like medicine twice, like, psychedelic medicine. Like I did toad medicine and I did combo at the end of the year. And that kind of initiated this whole nother level of boundaries for me in my business. And it's showed up in my business. And it's really interesting to see the shifts going on in me. It's like, okay, I've really given it my all, through serving and doing these specific projects and things. And now I'm kind of shifting gears and restructuring and so like I'm in this kind of soupy unknown place at the moment, but I know that it's like birthing into a new.
That's
And
great.
so, yeah, I'm just like surrendering to it and allowing myself to be in it, even though it feels uncomfortable at times. And I'm like, oh, I just want like it to be, dialed, and I know where, but it's just not there yet. And I'm okay with that.
Good. Perfect mindset.
Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah. It's just like, here we are. And I just diligently like work on what I know I need to do. And I feel I follow my heart and I follow spirit's lead. And I have coaching, I have support, I'm in a community, I'm held. And so it's good. It's just, man, it's like, whoa, business, you don't ever realize when you're signing up to be a coach or a leader in any way, you don't realize the transformational soul journey you're about to go on when you say yes to that path. It's like it's so beyond what you think it's going to be on every level, and it's totally linked to your own personal healing as well.
It's so true.
Yeah.
And I think it's also kind of funny that we think that it's supposed to be some sort of way as we're all evolving. Like, I don't know about you, if you'd go to like therapy and you do your own work and you like you like are out in the world and you're like, wow, the world is showing up differently for me because I'm different. And so as we're evolving, we have to evolve our strategies and evolve how we work in the world and evolve what we're doing because we are evolving, right? And so it's the human brain just cracks me up a lot because I think about how it's really desperate for patterning and really holding on to things. It's really wanting this like security of like, I know what's coming next. And really one of the most powerful things that you shared is to sit with the discomfort. And if we can just sit there without having to change it or fix it and be able to be more resilient in like moving and dancing with it, like I've seen Dawn do it so many times. It's just like being with the discomfort and dancing with it. And I've done it many times, and I'm certain that you've done it as well. Is that is just such a powerful place to show up and be unstoppable. Is really there to like, okay, I'm here, I'm uncomfortable. Let's not make irrational or like reactive moves, but to sit with it. And it's literally hacking your brain, your brain chemistry to actually choose something different, to slow it down and to be like, okay, because your brain it's a pretty effective machine. But there's a lot of things that are really not that effective, like we're perceiving threats and that kicks off some automatic responses and, the amygdala and the hypothalamus, and you're just like, whoa. And you get to, whether that's in business or with your children or in the grocery store or whatever, and we're responding all the time to our relationships. And so when you can train your brain and when you can really hack that, some like to actually logically think about like, oh, I feel stressed, I feel threatened, I'm going to sit with it and actually either ask for help or just see what's to come next and what's really sparking my own purpose and joy. Ugh, such a juicy conversation. I'm curious if there's anything that you'd like to share or bring our guests through, like a practice of some kind, or anything you want to share.
I think a lot of it we've talked about today around sort of the, you choose. I mean, for everyone, you are the CEO of your career, of your growth, of your personal brand. I think far too many people don't put themselves in the driver's seat and are looking for others to lift or pull or push them forward. So I think we've got way more control than I think we give ourselves credit for. And much like I tell all of the people I coach and mentor, and I will tell you, my youngest has it down pat now. You don't ask, you don't get. And so that in itself can be comfortable. Fear of being told no or being rejected. And so I want everyone to recognize that, you're the CEO of you, as I said, of your career, of your health, of your personal brand, all of those things. But with that comes a couple of things. And so one is there's a level of resilience, as you talked about, and I think you need to move through a healthy level of resilience. There's having the, that I call it the tribe around me that will support me, that will lift me or hold me, I think. I heard earlier in the conversation, but also challenge me deeply. And then there's a significant mindset piece here. And so you'll see that I sign a majority of my social media posts with, at least many hashtags, but unstoppable, my mantra and philosophy. The other one's around no excuses. And that doesn't go well with my children. But stuff's going to happen. We control what we can control. And there's some things that will happen, challenge, adversity, trauma that will come our way. We have choice in terms of how we're going to move forward. And whether that's with the support of coaches like yourselves and therapists, et cetera, or the self-reflection that we do, we need to be strategically intentional about how we take that path forward. And that for me is where no excuses comes from. Yes, I've had a lot happen in my life. I joke that I could have gone down a very different path of being probably one of the smartest, best damn drug dealers if I'd gone down the path of Julie, my biological mother, and sort of the circumstances, but I made choices to do things very differently for myself. And when other, adversity comes, even if it's just in business, I've been through, as I said, a ton of mergers and acquisitions. That's all challenging. It's a choice for me in terms of my participation in that, my engagement, how I'm going to lead others, or even to stay. And so I just want to leave that with everyone around the ability to sit in the driver's seat for ourselves in all facets, and coming at it with this no excuses mindset with the support of both resilience and people around you to support you on that journey.
Amazing. Amazing. I felt like a good pep talk there. It's like, yes, you're right. Okay. I think I have 4 or 5 academic advisors here at Berkeley. And I'm like, talk about people who are constantly like, look at that, go there. And it's, and that's just for this. That's not the rest of my life and how Dawn and, my inner circle shows up. I do want to share this one thought that really helped me to differentiate who to listen to. Okay. So I've got rules. Like, this person has to have my respect. Okay. This person has to have my respect. And I've got to, I like, not only as a person, like, their values are aligned with mine. I think of them, I have respect for them and what they're doing. They're moving at a pace that's, I think, humane. But also people, like, Scott Thomas told me a story a long time ago where he asked Jodie Foster not Jodie Foster. Oh, let me find the name. He was working with this woman who had a lot of hate because she was an activist. And he's like, how do you deal with all that hate? She said, you know what? I have like a board of directors. I have a committee of people that these are the people that I care about, their opinion. They're my guides. And it really hit me, like, I heard that in 2020 and it really hit me. And I started to really like sit back and think, like, who would I want on my side? And again, part of this, like, who's like the people who are going to poke at you, who are going to be like, hey. And so I started to really think about what I wanted. And it'll never be a partner. It can never be of course I'm going to like take in their, I'm going to take in their opinions and what they need and their needs. But there's too much agenda with them, right? There's too much agenda for their life wrapped up in mine. But then, so I started thinking about, like, so Dawn's on my committee. I have some friends who I really value where they've come from and where they've gone to. And so a couple of other people, like I have like an accountant who has a different, like, grew up really, really wealthy. And her mindset is just very different than mine. I grew up really poor. So I have all these people who are like, hey, I see you working hard, change this. Or, girl, where are you going with that? and someone who's really like checking me on things like around my relationships, around my business, around school, around what I say that I want, and whether I'm actually moving towards that or going against it. And so I have about 5 or 6 people that are my board of directors. And these people, everyone else is like, well, how do you? And I'm like, none of those people are doing anything for me.
Mm-hmm.
They're not supporting my life in any sort of way to actually have access to that kind of control over my life.
I
You're
agree with
not,
you.
you know what? So like my roommate, she's here, you know, because like this person is my home life, you know, and so I'm kind of like, okay, how do, and I think that we get lost in like trying to look a certain way or be a certain person in the world, and we forget really how to work that out, you know, how to pick and choose quality guides in this world. So I don't know how you feel about that or if you agree, but
I completely agree. For me, I talk about it in the way of like there's concentric circles.
Mhm.
And so for me, that inner circle is super close.
Mhm.
My husband, Danny, is there. I know you, Trish, said you don't want it to be your relationship partner, but for me, like he knows me deeply. We've been together now for 10 years. And so like he's in that circle. My best friend, Jen, is in that circle. And there might be a couple of others who sit there and then it goes out. So to what level I'm going to listen and I'm happy to take other people's perspective and advice, but to what extent I might implement it depends on where you are in the concentric circle.
Mhm.
totally.
Yeah, it's the same for me. I see it as a circle as well, like the inner circle. Yeah, it is so valuable to like. Okay, it's just being really honest with yourself and like examining: are these people, do they hold my highest and best interest at all times? Like, you know, and I call them 3 a.m.ers. Can I call this person at 3 a.m.? You know what I mean? Like, and I have called you at 3 a.m. I think probably. She called me at 3 a.m. Trish. So, you know, like, and that's the reason why the self-love show is here and exists, because we love each other that much. We were like, yeah, let's do this. It's like it's just from our heart, and spirit just aligned us to do this. And so yeah, it's like who's your 3 a.m.ers, right? Who are these people that are just, and you know, you got to just take an honest, accountable look. When I was young, I had people on my inner circle that didn't belong there, you know, and that was my trauma response that I had to heal from, right? And I had to boot those people out and be like, nope, you don't have my best interest. And that was really challenging, you know, when you're finally wake up to realize like, oh crap, these people actually are not, maybe they're operating from unconscious patterning, but truly their actions and their words are not matching. And that you just have to be really honest with yourself and start to put people in. This person actually cares for me, this teacher cares for me, this person, and put them into that circle so that you feel nourished. It's like drinking water every time you go to have a conversation with one of those people. And then soon that starts to ripple out, you know. And I made a radical shift from in my 20s. I moved from Texas to California. And when I moved to California, I was really freaking clear. This was where my inner circle shifted dramatically. And I made a proclamation and a dedication to myself that I didn't know anybody. I was moving to California with barely knowing anybody, one person. And I just said, you know what? This is it. I'm going to cultivate relationships that are honest, real, loving, deep, transformational, hold me accountable, like soul tribe. Like I'm here to find my soul tribe. And if they're not that resonance, then I'm not going to have them on my team and in my life. And I have cultivated that. Now I'm 49 and I have rich, rewarding relationships across the, you know, from inner circle and circles out, however you want to call it. And it's a ripple. And I've seen that from that one powerful choice in when I was 25. I made that choice, and it's come about from meeting my husband to my husband's family, my family. I mean, it's been a game changer, and I stuck to it. And I'm so proud of myself because like now I have those rich, rewarding relationships in my life that I feel like, yeah, they're family friends. They're 3 a.m.ers. They're people I love, value, and respect. And would, I have a handful of friends that are going through a really challenging health thing in their family right now. And I just cooked them soup and took them soup and was like, I love you. I'm here for you. Anything you need, I'm here for you. And it's just like, just showing up in that way for somebody is everything for them when they're going through a challenge. And can you be that person so that you allow others to be that for you when you are in that spot? And that's
Mhm.
it. That's it. Like, live by that value and your life works out golden.
I agree.
I love you.
Little rant.
My last sort of question and thought is tell me about the self-love of being unstoppable.
Ooh, good question.
My early days of being unstoppable was a determination to be better than, to prove to others. That's why I wouldn't let anything stop me from getting there. It took me a good long time to love me truly, and be confident in all that Victoria is, warts and all. And now I move forward, from a place of being unstoppable and working to achieve all of the goals and objectives I've set for myself, um, and new goals and objectives because they align with values and purpose, what makes me happy. Um, and I do it with confidence because I love the woman that I am now.
Love it. Well, if you want more of Victoria, check her out on her website or LinkedIn. I put it all in. And tell us a little bit about how you help people and what you've got going on.
So in addition to still being a C-suite executive, I offer coaching, both executive coaching and personal brand coaching. I do attribute a lot of my career success to the fact that I've established a very strong personal brand, so that recognition from LinkedIn around being IBM's like social seller worldwide. That's their phrase for a combination of brand, network, and engagement. But I've taken that to help others elevate their own careers or objectives. And so when people, as you said, you'll send them to my website, they can learn about me there, the services I provide. And also I do a ton of public speaking on topics around being a whole human leader, to diversity and inclusion and strategic intentionality around that, to a message around resilience and being unstoppable, and kind of some of my life lessons to share with others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like you have some books on here and also some other television and podcast appearances, some radio interviews. The books look really interesting and good. I'm like, ooh. Yeah. Thank you for being on today.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
I really love the unstoppable theme. It's like so inspiring on every level, because you need to hear that. You need to hear that when you're an entrepreneur. You need to hear that when you're a leader, and everyone's human. Everyone's human. We all go through these cycles in life and curriculum and all kinds of things. And it's like this, just giving people permission to like allow that into their consciousness of like, you can be unstoppable no matter what comes your way. Like it's so potent, like such a potent message. It lights me up. I'm like, ooh, I like this. Like, it's like, yeah, it's a good feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you for your work in the world. It's like inspiring.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So, right. I put in Victoria's website and her LinkedIn. Go ahead and check her out. Follow her everywhere. For those of you who are listening on the podcast, that's Victoria Pelletier, PELLETIER.com/meet Victoria, meet-Victoria. And yeah, I'm excited to like get your book and read it and nerd out on you and be like, yeah, I know that person.
The audiobooks are on Amazon. I have to say, for all of your listening audience, I am now at my preferred method of ingesting content is audiobooks or podcast.
Me
So although
too.
you can buy the physical ones through my site, also on Amazon, I will tell you can go to Audible, Spotify, whatever, to get the latest one. I just finished recording the book that's coming out in the summer. I literally just finished this morning the closing credits and on that audiobook.
Ooh, and we can hear your voice again. So that's great.
That's right.
No, it really does have something special when the author actually reads, you know, their work to you, because I think that really gives the inflection and the, yeah, a different understanding. Because I've read or listened to some books that were, I'm like, this person was not familiar. But I've also listened to people who have written their own and read their own book. And it was just really like, wow, this, I feel the passion there. Yeah. So I'm excited. I will get that on Audible.
Thank you.
Dawn, would you like to share about what you're up to?
Yeah. So I am very excited. I'm hosting a retreat April 20th and 21st. And it's for those that are based in California. I mean, if you want to fly in and come, please do. I will put the chat in the link, but it's basically the name of it is Walk in Grace. And so this is an opportunity for you to have a deep dive spiritual psychology process. We'll have movement, meditation, really, altar building, conscious altar building, and really deep prayerful ritual. And it's just such a sweet engagement. It's kind of like a culmination of my life's work kind of coming together in these 2 potent days. And it's really intimate. There's only a few spots available, and would love to have you and love to have you come drink in the experience of really unlocking your consciousness to allow more grace to be present in your daily life. Because no matter what we grow and change through, it's how we embrace it, and can we really invite in spirit's grace into our world, because you're living at a higher octave and you're feeling really expanded and in the loving when you're living your life from that place. And so this is a very deep, heartfelt invitation to allow yourself to say yes to kind of putting the key in the lock and turning the lock on the place where you've maybe felt held back, or not really feeling the like full presence of your love in your life, and you need some shifts here. This retreat will give you that opportunity, because it's a deep dive into unlocking the mystery that is you and where you need that next level of support. And so I'm so happy to offer it to you and give you that really beautiful experience. Hey.
I'm so excited. Thank you both for being on and sharing your wisdom and your heart and your stories about your life. The more we're able to be vulnerable, I think it really gives us, everyone, the opportunity to share as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're moving in a world that taught us not to do that. And it's kind of nice to have people feel really connected. Victoria, thank you again for your time and your expertise, and really just showing up so sweetly.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thanks for sharing, the intimate moment. That was really sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dawn, too, for everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'd really like to give a shout out to Roy and Russell, who are our team here at the Self-Love Show. They run everything in the background so that we can have lives and work our practice and go to school if that's what we're doing. So thank you, Roy and Russell, for always being there and always, coming up with awesome new strategies and doing your awesomeness. And our mascot, Poppy. Poppy's Russell's daughter. So we love her. Thank you again to Scott Thomas, Love Coach Academy, Global Peace Tribe, and all of you for showing up every day, every week for your own self-love, and for really committing to making the world a better place through your own love. So we'll see you same time,